Hey everybody, this is Bianca, Community Keeper at Laetro. This drawing club event was recorded on November 21st. This recording isn't of the whole event, just partial to give you a taste. Dija Murray hosted, leading us through surrealist drawing exercises to keep us curious and flexible. Come draw with us.
All right, excellent. So I'm gonna go ahead, hide this little guys, and explain the next exercise that we're doing. So the next exercise we're gonna be doing is a combination of objects. So it has to be a minimum of two, but of course it can be more. And basically, in choosing these objects, go with whatever comes to the forefront of your mind, whatever you resonate with. First, we're going to draw these objects separately, and then we're going to go ahead and combine them together. And I guess we can share the combinations that we have. We can address style. So don't worry about doing something stylistically exactly the way you want to do it right now. If you'd like to just draw the shapes out and then go ahead and combine them and then adjust the combined image in the shape or not the shape, the style that you want, you can go ahead and do that. I just basically want this to be pressure free, something we could work on for like the next 40 minutes, and something that you could possibly take home and continue to develop. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. Obviously, like I was saying before, eyes are like a pretty big motif for me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start drawing an eye in the way that I know how to draw it, or the way I'm being called to draw it. And I'm not worrying too much because I can fix any of this later. So I'm just laying it down as a guideline of what I know I want to combine. All right, so we got an eye. That's one object for me. I don't know why my brain, I'm thinking of a septum piercing. So they usually curve around. They have little balls at the end. That maybe not exactly like that, but kind of this barbell shape with a little round nibs at the end. Definitely thinking of a flower, kind of like a sunflower. And you can do as many of these objects as you can, because we're not necessarily combining them into a creature. It doesn't have to be a creature. It's essentially a composition with a subject or maybe one or two. Um, So like me drawing an eye in a septum piercing and a sunflower, it's not like I have to combine those into a living thing, if that makes sense. Doesn't necessarily have to be living, just something that you wouldn't see every day. That makes sense. I'm gonna just draw this flower out, kind of like the type of flower I'm thinking of, which is more along the lines of a sunflower, or maybe those little white daisies that have a yellow. All right. And then clouds, thinking of clouds, maybe influenced by my open patio door, fluffy. So I'm just going to stick with these for now. I don't want to force it. Um, I like starting off with the circle of the flower, kind of similar to that illustration that I gave at the beginning. But I feel like this is almost a blob within itself that I can just start off and start playing with. And once again, don't worry too much about it being extra defined at this stage. We're going to do a couple of like combinations and then later we can always refine it, clean it up, focus on the technical aspects more. But with this, I definitely want to retain the looseness. Right now, I have a lot of commissions I'm doing that are very technical. I have portrait illustrations. I'm commissioned to do a gig where I'm going to be sitting at a party and drawing live scenes from the party and people from the party. And it's very focused on just depicting exactly what's there. So exercises like this are really fun to get into what's not there and what we don't see, and to step away from the technical aspects, the demanding aspects of corporate art and corporatized art. A little break, so to speak. I like these ideas of like these little eyes. And maybe it doesn't have a mouth. Maybe it's not too much of a face. It's just these three little eyes and this septum going through. Maybe it's like sticking out its chest. Maybe that's just one aspect of it. I'm going to move on to the clouds. Tablet's giving me a hard time. Maybe it's the brush actually and not my tablet. Draw an eye in the clouds. Maybe draw a body. I don't know why I'm drawn to the idea of a bikini in the middle of winter or the start of winter, but
It's spring and summer in the southern hemisphere, so you can just, your mind can be there.
yes,
Yes.
that's a great point. Somewhere, somewhere. Love that. Maybe I should switch pins. This one is yes. That was giving me. Kind of hands behind the back. I like that. So that's another idea and way to combine it. And it doesn't have to be combining three things only into one thing. You can draw four things and combine two of the things into one, or three of the things into one, and have an element left over that's a motif in the background. So if I
The
wanted
thing,
to, oh,
sorry,
sorry, go ahead.
the thing you just drew reminded me of Saga, People just walking around with like computers on their head. I don't know. I
Saga.
didn't re
Is that a graphic novel?
Yes.
I think Tira actually put me on a saga. Someone put me on a saga and it looks really
Okay.
good, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay. There's some characters with computers on their head, and then just seeing your character with a cloud head and one eye, I was like, this is reminding me of this. I don't know.
I really like the TV head motif. I like the
Mhm.
head as a TV, as a computer, as a pyramid. Those are things that just draw me in instantly. I don't know why. Um, Thank you for sharing that. It's probably a little nudge that I need to read Saga. Um, I was going to say also some things can serve as like nonsensical motifs a little bit. So if I wanted to just break up the space, I could do the septum here or place it somewhere else, maybe behind her compositionally. I don't want to worry too much about the composition, even though I can't help myself sometimes, but maybe she could be standing in this septum piercing, like it's a ring around her, like a hula hoop. Yeah, that's a cool idea. It's weird, but it's interesting. And a lot of motifs like this actually can serve a functional purpose. A lot of times symbols like this could be used in merchandise, can be used as patterns, little odd things that I feel like the symbology of like an eye, especially an eye alone, a single eye, is something that can be applied to so many things. And it's such an image that's in the forefront of our minds that it resonates with a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. So sometimes doing this surrealistic art, it's like, what function does this have? Like, what corporation is going to hire me to do some of this strange art? But a lot of times it can be applied to functional products or items, like a makeup bag or a tote bag or wearable fashion or wearable art, notebooks, journals. Sometimes I find that motifs like this are really interesting to put on merchandise and things that can actually be sold. And there's whole markets for surreal art as well. When you look at the art in festivals, concert art, cover art for artists and album covers, skateboard shops, murals. A lot of murals have a lot of symbology and depict eccentric or absurd or surreal art as well. So there are markets for this type of art, and I'm just saying that because when I was younger, I didn't really see the appeal of this. So I adjusted a lot of what I did to fit a mainstream or a commercial industry, whereas there is a place for this, even commercially, even with big corporations. You just have to look into certain brands. And usually it'll be things associated with lifestyle, like I said before, skateboarding, or certain publications like Vice magazine. I believe at one point they hired illustrators to do editorial. Editorial work is also another area where, you know, drawing abstract concepts from articles and things of that nature can sometimes have a surrealistic edge to it. So if you look in the New Yorker or any magazine or publication, there will be sometimes surreal aspects to the illustrations that accompany these articles because you're merging the topics of certain concepts. Um, because if they could have just taken a picture, they would have just done that or got stock for it. But sometimes the articles that need illustration or art are going to have to be more surrealistic because it's not something that could be easily covered in a photograph, if that makes sense. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the function of this type of art and uh, give that little message because I felt compelled to. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So let's see if I can do one more strange object here where I'm combining these. Let's hide that for a second. So we've got these eyes. Maybe, I guess I'm really inspired by the sunflower illustration. I actually really like that. Let's say her nose is right there, so the septum is, that's where the septum comes in. And honestly, if this were to, excuse me, excuse that line, if this were to be a composition like this, the clouds could be a great indicator of a foreground and a background. Say that goes down like that. Filling up the space here. It's like Jack and the Beanstalk, but it's like this vague, strange half face sitting in the atmosphere. What an interesting thing to explore. Maybe we could do the sun. Jaleen mentioned tarot earlier, and I think tarot is a great source of these kinds of illogical illustrations that can sometimes be traced down to symbolic meaning. And sometimes it's interesting to do this exercise and actually look up like, oh, the metaphysical symbology of an eye, or the metaphysical symbology of piercings or jewelry, or the metaphysical symbology of a sunflower to see what kind of themes are trying to poke out. Um, but yeah, I actually think this one's pretty cool. Wow, it's already almost 2 o'clock already, which means we have 30 minutes left. So this is what I've come up with so far. I will resize some of these. Let's move this guy over here. Yep. So if I were to develop either of these, it would definitely probably be this composition and the cloud head bikini lady here. I think we can kind of stop and share a little bit of our objects. Even if we don't want to share the combinations yet, we can continue to work on that. But if anybody just wants to share the objects that they chose to be combined, we can do that too. Or if we just want to keep our heads down and keep on working and developing what we have, we can do that as well. Pretty much up to you guys and gals, excuse me.
I can share. It's weird and nonsensical. Not so much. Anyways, I can share mine.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna
can I
stop
sh
sharing for a
Oh
second.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a heads up. I had been inadvertently cheating at this. because this kind of like free association and like random shapes, it's actually how I start every day as a warm-up drawings.
Oh,
So let me screen one, share. Okay.
come
So
on,
like,
thumbs. I love your thumbnails and your value, contrast and your values. Very nice.
yeah, like the way that I do it is, let me erase this. Like I just put random shapes down. Sometimes I close my eyes to put them down. And then I just keep distorting until my my head sees something. And then when I see something, then I go ahead and paint it. But like I try not to spend more than like 3 or 4 minutes on it. And I do like 10 of these, and this is how I start every day. Like this last one was like I wanted to draw an eye, but like I draw the initial shape with like my eyes closed. Then I kept merging, and yeah. And like my focus is cinematography because I'm a keyframe artist. So like most of the stuff is like kind of like cinematic camera angles and stuff like that. But some of those, like I don't know what this is, but it's fine. It's
Yes.
also like I give permission to not to fail, but like I let myself out of the hook. Like if I don't see something, I don't have to chase it until it's perfect. I just, even if like some months later I come back and see something or not, it's fine. So yeah, this is, you never can say how I
Excellent.
was shitting at it. Sorry.
Excellent. I love these. I love your thumbnails. I could definitely see like the visual development element of your work. And these are gorgeous to me. I can stare at something like this for a really long time and decipher what I'm seeing from my own perspective. I like the fact that you use black and white, which is an interesting contrast to how I approached the exercise, which is using colored blobs, and using the contrast between the color and the black pencil on top. But I love how you really just even strip down, no color associations, just
Yeah.
value, just shape, just pure silhouette. And foreground and background and middle ground and all these planes that come up when you start to distort. If you're comfortable, can you please put in chat also what brushes you're using because your brushes are amazing. Um,
That'd be like, I don't even know because
oh
this
yes, I
is
see. I see you're not
this
using
is
Photoshop. Yeah.
it's Rebel
Yeah.
Order software, but like I intentionally, like I don't like to go too deep into like having a favorite brush or anything, because sometimes I go like, oh, oils, whatever it is, no idea, never used it before. Okay, okay, smudge, smudge, and then I go ahead and yeah. And usually I use Photoshop a lot as well. Like my main actually painting software is Photoshop. Um, it took me like so many years to find out that hard round brush is king. You don't need literally anything
Anything
else.
else? Very true.
It's unreal. And like here I have the advantage. Let me see if it will not crash while I try to do this. Don't have a stroke computer. Stay with me. And you guys can see it, like it simulates like water fluids.
That just blew my mind.
So like,
Very
okay,
cool.
stop, stop, stop. Okay. And then, yeah, Okay, I'm starting to see some waves here, so
Yes.
yeah, let's go with that. So I think like, yeah, this is pretty much what I have. And like, for me, it's a great way to start my day because it's low pressure. Um, I can, if I find something interesting, I can go back to it later and explore it. And yeah, it's a cool warm up, especially for like if I'm doing like a complicated piece that I have to like really get down to the technical details. Having something like this to even fall back to in the middle of the day, it's like it's a way to let myself off the hook a bit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Gustav. Those were beautiful thumbnails. Like you said, give
Mhm.
yourself space to fail. And I'm like, I don't see failure anywhere over there. That's just gorgeousness. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And
Thank you.
it's an exercise that I could learn to incorporate too as well as an artist. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's cool that that's an everyday exercise for you.
Thank you.
Yep, yep, Millie. All right. So I'll share this again, and we have a little bit less than 30 minutes. We can continue building up what we have, or people can share some surrealistic artists that they like and some art that they're inspired by. Um, I definitely want to work on this a little bit more. But it's ultimately up to y'all. Wanted to keep this free and loose, keeping with the theme of not being too rigid and too regimented and just kind of letting spirit or whatever's inside or whatever we're feeling or the vibes, so to speak, to kind of run the show. Um, I really like this motif. So I'm actually going to pull up a reference really quickly for the anatomy with that and then continue on. And I guess show you guys how, from being really loose and imaginative, we can go in and add some technical detail and clean it up. But I really wanted to emphasize the importance, as Gustav showed, as just like kind of letting loose and not worrying too much about the technical aspect of it and letting the illustration find itself. Um, so glad that he shared that. And if anybody else wants to share, even if you don't want to share your work itself, but just talk about the objects that you decided to combine, I'm open and the floor is free for anybody to share as well.
I like to share. Um,
Mhm.
let me see. I don't know if you can see it.
I can see you have an eye, you have a pair of lips and a cigarette,
Mhm.
a butterfly. It looks like a chain coming from the butterfly, but it's getting a little blurry, so I can't see.
Okay.
So I see a paw, which is so on brand for you. An animal face looks like a kitty cat. A
Yeah.
flower with a top hat dancing, which I find like amazing. And there's some change, some money. If you
Mm,
mind lifting it a little bit higher, that's a nice paw at the bottom, the curving. I really like that curving action on the paw.
mhm.
This looks like some sort of, I don't know if tesseract is the right word, some sort of 4D geometry. What is that shape underneath the eye?
So I don't know. I think it is like some kind of geometry base. I'm trying to, how like you try to draw crystals and try to draw the geometric side of like the crystals and everything. So sometimes when I'm bored, I would draw like triangles and I just turn them into like whatever. And the whole message of this piece is basically showing how like people sell themselves and don't want to show their true essence. So like and then you can see like the butterfly is attached to the or chained to the flower because it's like we're being used for entertainment.
Mm.
And basically we don't show like like we show our essence, we don't show the right essence. We show like our OnlyFans or anything like that. So it was basically showing how like the woman's outfit is basically lips that are talking, so like her body is talking, but she's not talking. She let her body do the work for her. And so she's like having all these different things about her. So she's letting her creativity be kind of like used for the wrong reasons instead of being her true self. And so the cat is kind of like, come on, like snap out of it, like be yourself.
And a
And
cat will definitely do that to you. A cat will bite
Yes.
you hard right in the face.
Yes.
Cat will let you
Yes.
know.
Yes. That is exactly a cat to come right at the right time and give you the wake up call you weren't even asking for, exactly, in the
yeah.
form of my cat. I just got a new cat for like the first time. It's my girlfriend's cat, and she had to convince me to get a cat. So we have a little black cat.
Mhm.
And she'll just step on my chest sometimes in the morning. And it's like the craziest alarm I can get because she'll just step right in an area that just hits me, just my soul leaves my body. I wanted to ask you, Jaleen, though, do you
Yes.
mind bringing it a little bit closer? Because I didn't realize that those were lips. And I
Mhm.
love that combination of like this red top lip that almost looks like a brassiere.
Yeah.
But it's the top lip, and then this looks like a glove, kind of like she's holding her stomach or a glove coming forward or her arm or
Mm.
something. And
Yeah.
it could be the bottom of her shirt or the top of her skirt, but it's the bottom lip. I think that's mwah. I love that. And I
Thank
like
you.
the themes behind the idea. And Kendrick Lamar has a whole album about pimping a butterfly and like
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Oh,
it's called To Pimp a Butterfly, and it's
Yeah.
about yep, it's about exactly what you're talking about, which is the struggle of having these creative talents and then being pimped or drawn from us, and the struggle of the artist to remain authentic and expressive when this corporate agency or this outside external force is causing you to push out that work for a monetary gain. So I think that's amazing. I love the thematics that you have going on here, and I love how
cool.
passionate you are and how strongly you feel about these themes. And thank you for sharing. I'm gonna say save that image too.
Okay.
Um, and we have about 19 minutes left. So we can use the rest of that time to continue to develop our illustrations and just chat if we want, share things, or whatever we want to do for these last 19, 18 minutes. I'm going to continue sharing my screen. Thank you to Gustav and Jaleen and everybody who chose to share. That's super brave. And I
I
hope everybody.
just
Oh, I'm sorry, Gustav. Go ahead,
no,
please.
just wanted to, you guys were talking about like the difference between style and your own voice. And like I think that the voice is like the message that you want to convey, and style is the means, is the how. So like I don't know if you guys saw the latest uh movie from Miyazaki, the Boy and the Heron. It's like it's gorgeous, and like his voice, what the story is about, it's grief. It's a story about grief. Uh but the style is the means that he chooses to express it. So it's like the animated anime style. So I think it's like the difference between what you want to say and the technical aspects that you choose to use. Like style is like super tied to uh technical limitations. So I've seen this meme a while back on the internet. Some people saying like, "Oh, I love your style," and it's like, that's not my style. That's just the limit of my skill. So yeah,
I love that.
Very true. I think that's a great way to break it down. And yes, style can a lot of times be just your limitation, your technical limitation. But for some people, it's interesting. People who go from being hyper realist, like I draw these hyper realistic images of eyes or portraits or whatever, to being extremely stylized. And to shift the style completely. It's very interesting to me what drives people to do that, and why people do that. And it's also interesting to me to see that stylized work often requires a heavy knowledge of realism. So sometimes it's like, in order to go surreal in the most resounding way, there still has to be some sort of knowledge of
Mm.
realism, and some people might argue there doesn't have to be. I mean, we see abstract artists who obviously there's no sense of realism there, and they're successful enough, and their voice is there, and the style is there. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I can yap about this kind of stuff all day. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my reference.
I
And
can add on to that, for example, like Pablo Picasso, like he started off before he did the cubism, he drew like actual figures and portraits of himself or portraits of people. And over time, I guess, once you learn the rules, you can break them,
break them.
And I think that's the beautiful part about like having that knowledge and the references. Like you can always use a reference to give you that undercurrent of inspiration, but then once you understand it and feel it, you can use that and take the essence of it and capture it in your own way, you know.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Jaleen. Picasso used to be my favorite when I was a kid.
Mine too.
Yeah. I mean, I liked all of the classics. I got in the 90s, my mom got me a series of books with different artists. So it was
Hmm.
Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso,
Hmm.
I mean, all the
Dolly.
greats, Dali, Monet, Manet, like it's just
Right.
all the so yeah, Picasso definitely is an inspiration in a sense of you don't have to stick with one style. You're free to change your style.
Mm.
And that starting with realism often can help people discover what their style is later on down the line, that's very stylized and removed from realism, but still
Yes.
builds on those foundations, that foundational knowledge. Yep, absolutely. Great point. Um,
Yeah, Khadija, I'm curious to see what your reference is. Are you going to pull it up where we
Me
can see it,
too.
or are you pulling it
I
up for the
know.
screen?
I was pulling it up on my phone, excuse
Okay.
me.
Oh,
Um,
mystery and intrigue.
I think I found one that I actually like, which is a sitting pose. I'm gonna
Mm.
go ahead and see how I can transfer over. I haven't done iCloud yet on my unit, so I can't just, maybe I actually can just airdrop this though, actually. Um, I found, yeah, it's a bikini pose, but it's more of like a sitting pose. And for some reason, I like the vibe of the pose a little bit more than the standing that I have here. So I might shift this. I'm just cropping it, and then I'm gonna see if I can airdrop it. Yep, there it is. Okay. So it should be opening in Photoshop, and you guys should be able to see it. Yep. So I kind of like this pose. I like the negative space. Can you guys see the reference that I pulled up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the negative space, especially here between the arm. I think the overlap of shapes is a little bit more interesting than what I was going for before. Um, and I think this tilt in the chest and kind of like the pelvis going back kind of sexualizes it a little bit less, which is more so what I'm going for. Um, And there's almost something a little bit guarded about this. And if we think about someone who's always a cloud, or your head in the clouds, or you're a dark cloud, it's a little bit of an aspect of separation from society or from socializing as openly. Um, so I kind of like that it's this pose that it's a little bit confident, but it's also kind of holding back a little bit, kind of pushing back. It's pushing forward, but also pushing back. And it's a little bit more reserved. So I'm gonna try this out and adjust this image here to kind of fit this reference a little bit. Move there.
You know, your piece, Khadijah, reminded me of Cerebellum from Powerpuff Girls. Like,
Ah, yes. How the hair
yeah,
covers her face. You don't really see
right,
Sarah's expression. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Love the Powerpuff Girls. Okay.
Hmm.
Let's see. I'm still gonna indicate the head here. Like collarbone. Right let's go down. There. Know where that is. Now hang down. Rib cage. Make this overlap with the hip. Hang. Leg. Oh, curving in there. Like I'm back in school. Figure drawing class. That me.
I
Ready.
was just muted just now. Start talking. No one can hear me. I was gonna say it's interesting to see you do this in like a very like back to basics kind of way.
Yeah, and I could use more of this, honestly. The basics are
Have you
so
ever
All
important.
seen?
about the fundamentals.
Yes, I was
Yes,
gonna say.
yes.
Have you ever seen? Now I don't know if this is like actually originally from this movie, but have you ever seen the movie Uptown Girls with Brittany Murphy and Dakota Fanning?
That's one that was always on cable, so I would always like catch parts of it, but I've never seen the whole thing.
Okay. Well, there's a part in the movie where Dakota Fanning is telling Brittany Murphy that uh, fundamentals are the building blocks of fun. And then Brittany Murphy ends up saying it later in the film. Anyway, it's cute. It just reminded me of that.
Yes, I love Brittany Murphy, RIP. Yes. Let's see. So that's there. Me. Down. Go like that. Go that way. And that right here. Proportions are probably off. Just want to indicate. Wrist about there. Forward. Back. Oh, we got 6 minutes left. Oh. Obviously, I'm not going to finish this. But
That's cool. You could definitely like we were seeing what it looks like now, but you could also, if you feel like finishing it today, you could finish it and then like add it to your IG later, and then you can like tag
yes,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Um, let's come forward a little bit. But before I start doing all that, um, I just want to remember the concept here, which is this cloud.
Yes.
Um, So where the head is, I can just start to indicate like this little shape. And I kind of want to keep it cartoony. I know if I render this or do this, it's gonna be stylized, definitely. So I also have to remember not to let the reference like kind of psych me out and get me stiff again, which is a big part of my problem. Let's see.
I used to be like mortified that I used to rely too much on reference. And then I had like I was hanging out with a group of artists online, and that day like a famous concept artist named Carla Ortiz, she like joined us and we were chatting, and then she said that like for like 2 or 3 years at the start of her career, she felt like she couldn't paint anything unless she had like very specific reference. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Oh, holy shit.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's interesting the era that I went into art school with, people being like, using references is tracing and it's cheating and it's this. And it's kind of like this artistic elitism a little bit. And I do understand to a certain degree and to a certain point, certain things do become I wouldn't necessarily say cheating, but definitely a hindrance to the artist a little bit. But I feel like if you look back at all like the amazing Disney artists and all the animation work they did, like they were working heavily with references.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
And they're amazing artists. So yeah, I had to deconstruct that as well. And my journey is really interesting because I went from wanting to be really stylized and um, doing showing my portfolio to fine art schools and then being like, your art is not good enough. And at the time, it wasn't. And I needed that reality check and that ego check, but it almost drove me in the opposite direction where I just focused only on the foundations and judged my merit as an artist only on how anatomically correct or how quickly or how much I can do without reference just to get out of school and graduate and realize like, oh, all these Instagram artists who are not applying any of that to their work have like hundreds and thousands of followers and are getting all these gigs and are selling out their shops and no one cares about the anatomy in that case. So I do understand with certain industries is it especially important, especially in what you work with cinematography, visual development, things like that. But but yeah, it was definitely a little deconstructing for me, but I bet it felt really good though to hear like someone who you really respect be like, yeah, I struggle with that too. So, yeah, definitely relatable. I gave her a really big bum, like her bum. I really exaggerated that. Like, bro, it's not that out there.
Well, it
Like,
doesn't need to be anatomically correct and
yeah.
exactly like
At the
the
wrong little
references.
thickness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with a little thickness either. Yeah, but I definitely made that a little bit extra there. But yeah, you can see even just from this little sketch that I can absolutely work on from here, how it's kind
Mhm.
of starting to see a little bit of heaviness. There's a little bit of gravity now to this.
Yeah.
And even though it's kind of still staying a little bit loose, a little bit surreal, just incorporating the slightest bit of like reference into this like kind of wonky, loose, surreal, absurd, weird design can make it into something that is a little bit in reality. I feel like it's the dance between it having that little toe in reality versus whoa, like this completely
Mhm.
does not exist. Oh, it is 2:30 on the dot, y'all.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
thank you so much for everybody who showed up. This was
Yes.
my first time doing this, so it was
Well,
really,
this is your first time doing this with Laetro. You've definitely done this
yes.
before.
I've definitely taught courses
Definitely gotta do
before.
more, please. Yes.
Thank you. I've taught before, but usually it's like a one student, or even if it's a group setting, it's a little different. So this was really exciting, and I'm so grateful and appreciative for everybody who showed up, and shout out to Millie as well, who had to leave early.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to send me anything, Gustav, if you have any like thumbs that you're cool with sending, or anything that you drew during the class, or anything that aligned with what I was talking about throughout the class, you could definitely send me a DM on Slack, or you can
Instagram.
go on Instagram, go on Dija_Ouija, and DM me your work too. I would love to share it and showcase if you're okay with that. And
Sure.
I would also love to follow you as well. So yeah, thank you so much
Yeah.
everyone for showing up.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. This was really wonderful. This was super fun.
It
Yeah.
was.
I
That was
learned a lot.
awesome.
Thank
I definitely need
you.
something like this.
Well,
Yes.
it's gonna be every Thursday at this time with Dija, with Millie, with Sue. So yeah, you can
Yes.
keep
Okay.
this on your calendar. I will actually send you the link as well for all of our Laetro Creative Club events, so you can check it out.
Oh, nice.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bianca. Yeah,
You're
Jaleen, you'll
welcome.
love it. It's great. Last week, I believe it was Millie, or
Yeah,
last Thursday, she did animals, which was something I
Ooh.
and
really wanted to.
she was speed running these exercises. Gustav can tell you. She was like, it was
Yeah.
like just like 1 minute, go, go. I'd never done it like that before. And it was actually very like illuminating, because I was like, oh, like you like do this repeatedly very fast, and you like without even realizing it, your like brain's like realizing what you want to change, and then it just automatically you're doing that as you like go into anyway. It was wild. I've never done any drawing session like that.
That is
For me,
crazy.
like that was specifically like super relevant and great because like at the end of December, I'm gonna go to my city's zoo. They're gonna have like a special session where the zoo is gonna be open during the night.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
Oh,
I wanted to like take my sketchbook, but now I realize, oh, okay, I don't need to like to sit like half an hour in front of the lion and just no. It's 1 minute, draw it,
yeah,
go on to the next, draw it, go on to the next, draw it, go on to the next.
cool, good.
nice. So sad I
But
missed
anyways,
that one. Yeah. That's cool though. That's very apropos. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Thanks so much, guys.
yeah.
See you
Thank
next
you for
time.
Yes.
being
Thank
here.
you.
See you next week.
The next
Bye-bye.
week. Bye bye.
Bye.